Here's what's cooking on the day Sports Stove Local Hour. We are talking the recap of Saturday's game against Western Carolina, the preview of SEMO, and we got on for the first time ever on the Sports Stove, Punter Jeremy Edwards. That's what's cooking on the day Sports Stove Local Hour.
McKinney looks, steps into pocket, throws, open receiver, touchdown! Colonels, we're not done yet!
Our identity is we're going to press for 40 minutes, we're going to play up-tempo, we're going to play with unbelievable passion, and then our brand is the most exciting 40 minutes in sports.
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Local Hour presented by IPM Pest and Termite, Central Kentucky's neighborhood pest professionals. I'm your host, Vince Stover, joined, as I always am, by Captain, Defensive Lineman, Junior / whatever he is these days, Ryan Jackson. Hey, Ryan, how you doing, man?
Doing all right, and junior on the field, senior in the classroom.
That's right. Yes, and I tell you what, I get so confused with classifications nowadays. One of these days, it'll feel normal again. But nonetheless, yes, and let's get started. Let's get the bad stuff out of the way. Western Carolina, Saturday night, 27-24 is the final. Western Carolina scored with, I think it was 25 seconds left. You guys were able to march down quickly, some big-time plays, and then just with everything going on, the field goal did not go through the uprights, which would have sent it to overtime. Patrick, by the way, he hit 2 earlier in the game, and I forget now, Rickson gave us the stat. I think it was the 5th or 6th or 7th time that Pat had hit 2 field goals in one game. He looked sharp, but of course the weather was nasty. Let's start with that, the weather. It was about the national anthem that the rain started to come down, and it did not stop the entire game.
No, the weather was horrible. I'll say that. We go in. It was kind of sunny. Like, it was a nice day. Come out, and it's a thunderstorm. We're like, whoa, what happened? And especially because I'm with the captain, so we took the left because everybody else goes up the hill. So we were the first people to see it. Like, whoa, what is all this? And it was just, it was crazy. It was a bunch of rain, sideways a little bit, and it got cold. It was just a nasty time to play football, but it's also beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. Now, it's funny because I write a recap article after every game, and I write it all throughout the game. So I had my intro already typed out about an hour before the game started. And it started off with, it was a beautiful night in Richmond. And by the time the game was done, right before I submitted my article, I changed it to, it was a rainy night in Richmond because it was beautiful up until kickoff. And then it was kind of ugly after that. Would you rather play in the heat at Cincinnati or the rain like you played in Saturday?
I don't think I'd change anything in the world than playing at home. Playing at home is always better than playing anywhere else. But, yeah, I guess I would take the rain because there's no way I could do that heat at Cincinnati. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was warm.
It was cooking there, too.
Man, this Western Carolina game, you guys, first quarter, it was all EKU. They did score a touchdown towards the end of the first quarter, but you guys just looked dominant. Everything looked good. First half, you guys went in up 14-7. Patrick hit a field goal right as time expired there in the first half. Then the third quarter is really the second and third quarter, it was a punting competition. A whole lot of 3 and outs, or, they get a first down and then have to punt 3 plays later. You guys would get a first down and have to punt 3 plays later. Whatever it was back and forth. I think they missed a field goal during that span as well. The second and third quarter, though, it was completely different than the first and fourth quarter. And I started thinking about it during the game. It seemed that similar to last year in that sense, where it seems like you guys would get going and then it kind of stalls out for a little while. But then when the end of the game comes, it gets back going again. Is that something that you guys notice? Is it odd, weird? I know there's not a whole lot you can explain about it, I don't think. Maybe you can.
It's bad because it's not to how we play. It's not how we play to our standards. For some odd reason, we are not failing. We're failing to finish. We're failing to compete throughout the whole game, and that's something we have to get fixed. Not only as players, but as a whole staff, trying to stay locked in for those periods of time. But there's nothing that goes on during the game that I wouldn't say we were never prepared for. I wouldn't say that we weren't ready to go out there and give it our all. It's just at those point in times, it just seems like that's when we lose a little bit of focus. We lose a little bit of concentration. We start giving up more plays, and that's where as a team and as a captain, I have to get us back in, locked in, tightened up. And there's no finger to point. There's no exact one spot where that scenario comes up and it's his fault. You can't do that. We're a team, and as a team, we fell apart in those 2 moments.
Yeah, and Coach said it Saturday night after the game. He said, we win as a team, we lose as a team. It's just that it's that simple. And I know there's frustration on Coach's part, on the offense's part. The run game just could not get its footing, could not get moving effectively, efficiently at all either. And it's kind of that second and third quarter where it seems like that's where they really try to get the run game going, because you get through the first quarter and then they started to run more and it just didn't work. And then they got out of the second half, tried to run more, it just didn't work. And then it seemed like the first and the fourth quarter was a little bit more pass heavy. Although let's give Parker his shout out. His legs were working just fine on Saturday. He led the team 61 yards, I think it was. And he looked like the athletic Parker that I tried to tell Coach Parker is. He's an athlete. And but I don't know. Tell me, because I know Coach's thoughts on this, but when Parker is running the ball, that's not the game plan, but it's pretty effective. So do you like it when you see Parker taking off?
It depends. Parker got like sneaky little get away from the cop speed, if that's what I like to call him about that. He's running like there's a wild dog behind him sometimes. But I think it's good because you see Parker run tough. You see Parker run hard every time. And that not only brings energy to our sidelines, but we trust Parker. Whatever he feels like doing out there, we trust him 100%. And I enjoy watching the long runs because every time I see him hit the numbers, I think he's going to score.
Yeah.
But that's for any player on our team. Anytime I see Jado catch the ball, anytime I see B. Sloan run the ball, I think they're going to score. So I have the utmost confidence in my friends and my teammates. But Parker, man, sometimes he looks real good running, and sometimes, I'm telling you, it looks like he's running for his life.
I forgot to bring my notes in with me, but I think in the first quarter, if I remember it, I counted 8 different receivers that saw the field. In the game, I think it was 9 total receivers that saw the field as well. You brought it up last week that, man, we got all this depth at wide receiver, and it's just trying to find a spot for him to get out there. And we saw it this week. Now I just forgot his name. But I always say his last name wrong. Bednarzik.
EB.
Yeah, that's a good one. Ethan. Yeah. He got a lot more playing time than he'd gotten earlier in the season. 4 catches, 68 yards. We saw Mo out there. Bryant Johnson getting a lot of run as well. Burbage, I was told he was kind of banged up, but he played some as well and got out there. Jackson got his first touchdown as a Colonel. But Jaden Smith, I mean, we say it all the time, but this kid, I mean, he's elite. 10 catches, 121, a touchdown. Made some huge plays in this game. And every time I was sitting next to a guy from Western Carolina in the press box, and I just told him, he goes, "My goodness, what a catch." I said, "Yeah, dude's a stud." Yeah. Like Jaden Smith is a guy that honestly, I am a little surprised he didn't leave, and I don't know what opportunities he had, if any, to leave this offseason. But I was so glad to hear that he was staying, and we're seeing that he is that guy. Like he's there. We have good receivers. I say you guys have good receivers. But to me, Jaden is clearly the best one.
Right. I think Coach Cox does a great job as the receiving coach of making them all hungry for the ball. I think they're all a bunch of workhorses, especially Ethan Mendarzik. He's been here the whole time. Quick little story about EB. I always have all the stories. When we were freshmen, and not a lot of people know this, but we had a little bit of, not a little COVID issue at one point in time. And we had some guys that weren't sure if they were staying on the team at that point. And there was one practice. And EB, if we ever get him on the show, he'll tell you this. It was him, another freshman receiver, and 2 senior receivers during camp, and that was it.
Huh.
And that's when he went from Ethan Bendarzik to EB.
Yeah.
For everybody else, because he was a walk-on who came in here and did nothing but worked his absolute tail off for anything. And he wanted anything he could. He started off as a special teamer for us, and he made some great catches on there. And now I'm happy he finally gets his opportunity to play at receiver. I know this is what he's been wanting to do for the longest time. And Jado's Mr. Consistency. He is he comes in every day, works hard, expects everybody to work just as hard. And I think that's what makes that room so special is the competition between them, and the love and care that they honestly all have for each other is ridiculous. Yeah. Like I know I go down the hall, I see Burbage with Mo and EB, and they're all talking together, having a blast. So I just think Coach Cox has done a great job of coaching that room. Jaden's done a good job of raising the level of that room to where everybody should be playing as elite as Jaden Smith. Nobody out there is trying not to be second fiddle to anybody out there. And I love that about the receiver group.
You had at least 5 catches of more than 20 yards. Jaden Smith he may have had more than one. EB had one for 26. Mo had one for 41. BJ had one for 25. Braden had one for 20 as well. And then we see Hunter Brown, 3 catches, 40 yards. Those were mostly early in the game, but he's definitely holds his own out there at tight end as well. And Mannon, is that how you say his last name?
Mina
Mannon. Okay. Yeah. He got his first official points as a college athlete, 2-point conversion catch. And he's been seeing a lot of time out there too. Of course, there's injuries. Reese has been out. But it's neat to see the freshmen getting opportunities, taking advantage of the opportunities that they're getting, right?
Right. It's beautiful seeing little Mina make some noise, because I remember when he came up to me during camp and he was all scared and a little nervous because he went from coming in as a freshman kind of like a 4 to when everything happened, he ended up being like a 2. And he's like, Ryan, we're going to Cincinnati and I'm actually going to get like reps, like different reps. And I'm like, yeah, dude, but he should expect to. And that's the thing about like young kids. They're scared. They're a little nervous to get their feet wet. But Mina is a mature one, and I'm happy that he's grown and developed more as the practices have gone. He's a kid. If you watch Cincinnati to now, he's gotten better each week. He's built a little bit more confidence each week. He caught that little pass in the end zone. You would thought he was about to crap himself. He couldn't even celebrate. But he's electric. He's just a great guy. I love him. And he adds a lot to our tight end room that was needed. He's a bigger guy. He's going to just do nothing but continue to develop for our team.
Yeah. Logan had the interception. There was a couple other opportunities for interceptions, but Logan got the one. And but each week we like to name a player of the game. Sponsored by All Around Roofing. All Around Roofing, central, locally owned and operated, takes care of all the exterior needs of your home, whether it's roofing repairs and replacements, siding, windows, gutters, soffits, whatever it may be. And we've handed out 2 so far this week or this year. And this week, what I'm going to give it to is Braden Sloan. And he showed his All-American kick returning abilities. Had 3 returns, 118 yards total. Really set up the offense in some great field position at some really important times of the game as well. And so shout out to Braden Sloan being our all-around player of the game this week. First non-defensive player to get the player of the game this year. So congrats to Braden on that. All right, Ryan, it's time for our guest. For the first time ever on the Sports Stove podcast, a punter is making his way onto the show. It's the one and only Jeremy Edwards. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
Hey guys, how you going?
I'm doing good. Thanks for coming on tonight, man. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's an honor. I'm happy to be here.
Well, you want to talk about elite stats, Jeremy? Last Saturday, as much as we don't want to see you on the field. I don't mean that at any meanness at all, but you had an opportunity to be on the field a lot this week. 5 punts, total of 244 yards. 3 of them were down inside the 20. Your longest punt was 55 yards. You were doing your job to its fullest on Saturday, and I felt it was important that we gave you proper due for how good you played on Saturday, and that's why we wanted to have you on. And so, congrats on the big game, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was definitely a good game to get out there, and nice to see I can finally figured out how to kick the ball. So I'm sure the coaches were happy with that. But yeah, really couldn't have done it without the coverage team, to be honest. Like, I was watching the film back today, and they made a couple of clutch tackles and got down there. Trey Gooden's lightning quick, so was Chiari. So they were able to get down there and get the returner's face and make him fair catch it. And you mentioned Logan Blake before. He made an unreal diving tackle. So yeah, big shout out to those guys. They're the people that keep me safe out there and keep me on the field.
Now, tell me what happened. You had one where you punted, ran into, and then they let Jacob come out and punt. Jacob Baker came out and got a punt out as well. Were you banged up, or what was the situation there?
Yeah, I have no idea what the difference between running into the kicker and roughing the kicker is. I had a chat to the refs at halftime, and they said, "Oh, well, basically, if you get hit on the right side, it's running into the kicker. If you get hit on the left side, it's roughing the kicker." And obviously, I got hit on the right side this week, but in week 1, I got hit on the left side, and they still called the same thing. So, mate, I got no idea what they're doing out there, but they're doing it to the best of their abilities, I guess. But I got a bit of an injury back in the spring and just landed on it a little bit funny on my left shoulder on Saturday. So I was saying some colorful words and trying to avoid the trainers as much as I could. And I didn't actually realize that I had to go back out there. So they couldn't track me down. So they sent Jacob out there for his first career kick. So that was pretty exciting for him.
All right. So, yeah, that's an interesting explanation from the officials for sure. Especially when it varies week to week and everything. This was our first time. We're not going to comment anymore on the officials, but this was our first time seeing the officially UAC officials. And I know there was some disagreements, needless to say, between Coach Wells and the officials and some others as well. But we will not get you guys in trouble and ask you to comment on that today. But Jeremy, the biggest question that we get, I had someone ask me, I told them you were going to be on the show. And they said, my only question would be is how in the world does Jeremy end up in Kentucky, of all places, Eastern Kentucky and Richmond? So I'm sure you've told this story before, but what's the story of you coming to EKU?
Yeah, if I had $1 for it, I reckon I'd be the number one donator on the team. That's for sure. But basically, like, I was sitting around on the couch one day watching the NFL on TV, and I saw the punter come out, and it was Michael Dixon of the Seattle Seahawks, and he's Australian too. And I thought, oh, geez, I could give this a go, I reckon. And I remember a guy that I used to play Australian football with, Corey Dunn. He came over and he played at Iowa State. So I jumped on his Instagram and did a bit of research and found out that he went through this program called Pro Kick Australia. And basically they're an academy that teach Australian players how to punt a football out of the pocket with a spiral, with like the adequate get off time and the basics of the game essentially. So I shot them an email and said, I can kick the ball a decent way. Can I have a go? And they kind of gave me a buzz and said, yeah, come down and have a tryout. So I was lucky enough to get the opportunity there from Nathan Chapman and John Smith and Tim Gleason down in Melbourne, Australia. So I shot down there and trained with them for 18 months. And yeah, was lucky enough to get a spot here at Eastern. I remember waking up on a Saturday morning and getting a phone call from Coach McPeak at 7:30 a.m. or something like that. And he goes, oh, you look like you've just woken up. And I was like, that's because I did. So it's it was a brilliant opportunity, and they're truly some of the best coaches I've ever had. They're phenomenal.
Is the coaching staff connected with that program? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm actually the 4th Australian punter in a row that they've had from Pro Kick Australia. They've got countless athletes over here, all through the FBS, FCS, down to Division 2 as well. And they've even got guys in the NFL. The most recent of Lou Headley from Miami. He's at the Saints now and came through the same program. So they had Jordan Berry came over, and then Keith was after that, and then Phil was before me. And then I'm the 4th one in the pipeline. So it's a very strong connection there, and we've got great relationships.
That's awesome. And what was your sport of choice growing up?
I played a lot of cricket. I played Australian football from when I was 15. played a bit of basketball here and there, played a lot of golf, anything I could get my hands on, really. I just liked being outside and playing that team sport environment. So I thought, oh, why not come and give this a go?
Now, are you part of the golf group with Logan and Pat? I
have been out there a couple times with them. It used to be handy at it, but it's been a bit of a while off. So I'm a bit worse for wear. I usually play the first 6, and then I get too frustrated after that. So,
Ryan, what do you got for Jeremy?
So I know like punting's like a big thing in Australia, but did you ever think of playing any other position? Like, just think you could play college ball at any other position?
Honestly, mate, I still don't know any of the rules, so I don't know if I could play any other position. So I think I'd want to play a linebacker, though, just because I want to run into someone like that. I made one solo tackle last year, and it was the highlight of my season. So I just want to run out there and run through a couple guys, and I reckon that'd be a bit of fun to play linebacker.
There you go. You got decent size, at least on the website. You're listed at 6'3", 230. Not 330, 230. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I lost a couple pounds over here. I've lost a couple of pounds. So I'm more pushing down towards about 220 now, but okay. I got told that I was too slow, so I had to drop a bit of weight to see if I could be a bit faster.
Do you ever in practice, do you ever go over to the tackling dummies and the different tackling tools they have and practice tackling?
No, I mainly just sit there on the at night time eating dinner or whatever, thinking, like, watching the NFL on TV, thinking, geez, that'd be great to do.
Yeah. I saw a bunch of highlights of Pat McAfee recently making tackles and doing things after punts, and stuff like that. And of course, he's a character in of himself. But yeah, when you look at that, let's do it this way. Dream scenario this season. Obviously, punting is your first job, but is it fake punt where you run, fake punt where you throw, or you get to lay some lumber, lay somebody out during a return?
Definitely a fake punt where I run it and I get to run someone over. I reckon that'd be like a joke with the guys, like that I'm going to hit him with a little goose step or hurdle someone running up the sideline. So I reckon fake punt and running around and try and smack someone would be the ideal situation.
I like it. I like that mindset. You're going to truck somebody.
He's definitely hurdling somebody.
He's hurdling somebody. Okay. Yeah. So there's great athleticism then in Jeremy Edwards.
Ooh, of course. I don't know about that, but
he's going to sell himself short. He's a heck of an athlete.
All right. I want to see this hurdle now. Now I'm looking forward to this. We got to see this come. I'll make sure I'll put in a word with the coaching staff. Hey, let them run a fake punt.
Appreciate it.
Listen to me, but I'll still tell them. Needless to say, was this your best total game this past weekend of your college career?
I think so. I don't know straight off the top of my head, but yeah, everyone was fairly happy with me and fairly happy with my performance. But yeah, it's pretty tough to be kind of like focused on that when your team couldn't get the win. I think that was the biggest thing that I kind of took away from it, was like, you always think to yourself like, oh, maybe if I kicked it a bit further, or maybe if they didn't return it, I think the return had a couple yards on me or something, and my net wasn't as high as I wanted it to be. I think there's a lot of what ifs around it, as opposed to like celebrating with the team. It's kind of hard to be pretty happy with yourself when everyone else is fairly down. So you just try and rally around the guys and keep everyone nice and close connected, and make sure everyone's uplifted.
What is my mind just went blank at what I was going to ask you. I'm going to think on it. Ryan, what else you got for Jeremy?
Jeremy, you've been in the States for a year now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has better food? And if it's back home, what's the go-to or like main meal?
Golly, that's the golden question, isn't it? It's tough to say like who's got the better food, because definitely like I've been caught in the two minds of wanting to eat healthy and stay in shape, but want to make the most of the American delicacies out here while I'm out here, like Outback Steakhouse and the Dunkin' Donuts as well. But there's definitely a few things that I miss from back home that I did indulge in quite a bit when I was back home with the family and everyone. Meat pies has got to be up there. You ask any Australian, they'll say the exact same thing. And definitely a chicken parma from the local pub. You can't go wrong with that. So I tried to have one from Olive Garden, but it just didn't compare.
So what is the life of a punter? What's practice look like for you? Because obviously you practice, but if anyone's been out to practice, you, Pat, the other kickers, even long snappers, you kind of do your own thing, it seems like. So what's it like being a life of a punter in practice and during the season?
Yeah, it's pretty simply put, I'll never complain about it. That's for sure. We like to. Everyone else kind of stays down on the 2 game fields, and we go up to the grass rugby field up the top, and it's a lot of technique work. It's hard to kind of go out, and obviously we don't have different plays to run and everything, so it's just perfecting your craft as such. So you're doing a lot of the same stuff repetitively, and trying to make sure that you kind of stay in touch with what you're doing. But then like there's an even balance that you have to have between overdoing it and not trying to kick 100 balls a day, as opposed to getting good quality reps in. So I think that's something we've definitely highlighted this year. Last year we kind of went volume over quality, and this year we've definitely tried to take more intentional reps and get more out of what we're doing at practice, as opposed to just trying to get as much in as we possibly can. So it's definitely good quality reps. We're up there with our strength coach. He keeps an eye on us while we're up there and keeps us in check. So we're making sure to take good quality reps and really work on our craft, rather than just trying to kick the ball 1,000 yards every time. So
what gets the most sore? I mean, is it the foot from where you're having the contact? Is it the leg that just gets fatigued, like as you're going through all these the process of practice?
Yeah, it's definitely the hamstrings. I've got the flexibility of a dry stick, so it's I've got to make sure that I'm rolling out as often as I can and staying flexible. But just with that volume, as I was saying, like if you go out there and try to kick as many balls as you possibly can, your hamstrings are just going to get torn to pieces. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that in check and try and take a bit of a break every now and then. So like maybe kick a set of 10 balls or 5 balls or such, and then work on your drops for another for the next half an hour or so, or next 15-minute period, and then work on your field goal holds as well. So it's definitely the hamstrings that take the most toll. But with the kickers, they seem to get pretty sore in their hips and their quads as well. So,
I'm looking forward to this hurdle. I'm stuck on that one right now. I'm looking forward to seeing this week against SEMO, and now let me ask you this: what's the freedom that you have, if any, when you go out to punt? Is there something you're looking for where if you see it, you're allowed to call a fake, signal a fake, or are you told what you're going to do and that's final?
Me and Coach Day have a pretty good relationship. We've definitely worked together pretty closely over the last few weeks. Saturday we worked together quite a bit, and we've kind of got a really good understanding of my abilities, and he leaves a lot of the trust in me as well. We kind of communicate on the sidelines, and I talk to him as to what I think is going to be the best to go out there and do. And like on Saturday, I basically said to him, look, coach, like it's not going to be pretty what I do, but I'm just going to kick it along the ground so they can't return it. That was the main goal of this week, especially after the Kentucky game, was just to limit as many return yards as possible. So he definitely puts a lot of trust in me and gives me a lot of freedom to kind of call what I want. But a lot of that kind of second nature comes from playing Australian football as well, because we're passing the ball by punting it to each other and running around with their head up a lot. So I try to make sure that I keep a close eye on the defense and what they're doing. And there was one situation last year against Central Arc where I remember I took the snap and I looked up and there was no one in front of me, and I still kick myself to this day because I should have took off and seen how far I could have gone, but I just held the ball for an extra kind of second and a half and then kicked it. And I still wake up in cold sweats at night thinking about that because I just want to be out there running the ball. So I don't know. Hopefully over the next few weeks we can kind of have a bit more of a freedom out there and kind of see what the defense is doing, and who knows, I could be making that hurdle fairly soon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Now, you did transition position coaches this year. Coach McKeithen, of course, had an opportunity to go be OC, and he left. So how much of changing coaches does that affect your offseason, affect your practice, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, couldn't think of a thing that's not positive to say about Coach McKeithen. I love him to death. He was absolutely brilliant while he was here. He was great with me, and we worked together really, really well. I didn't have much to do with Coach Day last year or through the spring. So when he came in, it was kind of like an introduction sort of thing as well. Like I remember he took me aside and we had like a 15-minute one-on-one meeting, and he basically said, like, what do you do well? And we just kind of communicated that, and and he gave a lot of the trust into me. And then through training camp in the second week, we punted nearly every single day. And it was just him trying to find out what I'm good at and what I can do well, and what I don't do well as well. So it was good to have that kind of mutual trust and really build that relationship factored around me, as opposed to like bringing me in and going from never even watching a game of American football to playing in my first game last year at Eastern Michigan. It was very much like, all right, this is what we're going to run. So let's see if you can do it, sort of thing. Whereas this year I kind of know the game a little bit better. So I've had a bit more trust in my ability. So it was really good to kind of work with him that way and build the punt team around myself. So it's been good. And me and Day are working really, really close together, which is good.
Awesome. Ryan, anything else for Jeremy?
No, I'm all good, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Well, Jeremy, like I said, man, you had a great game, and I know the outcome isn't what anybody wanted, but you performed great, and I think it's important that we always celebrate individual success as well as team success. And I just want to make sure that you guys always understand that, yes, I understand you can't go out, you can't be cheering in the locker room after a game like that, but I hope that you take pride in what you're able to accomplish this week. You had a great game, and we're an important part of the team this week, especially. And you know, like I said, I just want to make sure you got recognized because I really thought you played a great game. So congrats on that. Good luck moving forward this season, and hopefully we don't see you out on the field quite as much as we saw you on Saturday, but we got to have you out there enough to get that hurdle. So we'll be cheering on every time you come out.
I do appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Not a problem. That's Jeremy Edwards, punter, EKU. Thanks again, Jeremy. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to preview what is ahead with SEMO, and I have sack celebration ideas for Ryan Jackson. That's coming up in just a moment. But first, a quick word from All Around Roofing and IPM Pest and Termite.
With over 20 years of experience, Matt Schaefer and the good folks at locally owned IPM Pest and Termite provides pest control service for all of Central Kentucky's pest control needs. Whether you have a current pest control problem or want to prevent infestation from ever entering your home, IPM Pest and Termite offers maintenance programs that will help keep pests out of your home and provide peace of mind. So for dependable, reliable services that you can count on, get in touch with our good friend Matt Schaefer at IPM Pest and Termite today at myipm.com. That's myipm.com.
And one more from All Around Roofing. Does the exterior of your home need a facelift? All Around Roofing has you covered. All Around Roofing is a locally owned company servicing Madison County and all of Central Kentucky. From roof repairs and replacements to gutters, siding, windows, soffits, chimney flashings, and more. All Around Roofing provides quality work and friendly service that will leave your house looking great. Call today, 859-489-5179 to get a free quote. That's 859-489-5179. We can handle your all-around exterior needs at All Around Roofing. And to the Sports Stove Local Hour presented by IPM Pest and Termite. And before we get to SEMO, Ryan, I had this brilliant idea on Saturday before the game. And I was like, okay, sack celebrations. We haven't really got to see yours yet. The one sack that you got in Cincinnati, you were on the ground. You had some fist pumps and some different things going on. But hear me out. Think through it. You can be more creative than this. But Sports Stove Podcast. So we get the sack and we start cooking some meat or something out there, flipping burgers or something like that.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. I just got to I should have had one in this last game. That way I could have hit it this one.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not opposed to cooking up some.
All right, there we go. I like it. So like I said, you can take it and run with it. But there's my idea. A little nod to the Sports Stove. A little grilling something, cooking something. I like it. I like that idea. All right, let's get into SEMO. The reason people really listen to this show, right there. But okay, SEMO. You guys played them last year. You guys won 28-23 at SEMO. Parker went for 398 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. The run game never did get going, though, against SEMO. The defense, there's good and bad here. The defense gave up 529 yards, but had 2 interceptions. I think I couldn't find the fumbles. But either way, you won. You only held them to 23 points. So it doesn't matter if you give up 529 yards if you hold them to 23 points. So that was great. 2019, also at SEMO, was a loss that time, 31-38. Do you remember? Let's see. Were you 2019? Were you there in 2019? No. Okay. But 2022, last year, you remember that game, I'm sure, fairly well.
Yeah, the fumble you're talking about is TK McClendon strip sack.
That's right. Yep. And I think that was the only sack credited in that game as well. But like I said, you held them to 23. You got the win. This is a team, they played Kansas State week 1, got torched 45-0. We can't blame them for that. They beat Lindenwood 45-7, and then they lost last week to Southern Illinois by 1 point, 26-25. They throw the ball a ton. Their quarterback, 46 attempts last week. He was over 40 attempts in at least 2 of the games so far this season. He had 251 yards and a touchdown. Their running back ran for 99 yards and a touchdown, also caught the ball 7 times for 51. And they got a receiver, Demoria Vick. They had another guy who I think was injured last week and did not play, who was doing well before that. But Vick has caught 25 passes for 227 yards and I think 2 touchdowns on the year as well. Their defense has picked off the opposing quarterback 6 times and 2 forced fumbles last week and recovered both of them as well. SEMO is and has been a ranked team the last couple of times that EKU has faced them. What do you know about this program, whether it be last year and what's carrying over to this year, that you expect for this week?
Yeah, not only from playing them last year, but also when they were recruiting me a little bit. SEMO is a good organization, just a good team, got a good foundation of what they've been built on. They like winning. They really exemplify winning. And then playing them last year. They're a good competitive team. Good. We played them at their place, so it was a pretty good crowd too. Just a nice little nasty little O-line. The running back's a really good player. He's a bigger back, likes to run through you, past you. And the quarterback's a tall guy, throws the ball really well. I think they got a good offense. I think they got a good little dynamic offense. I don't know too much about their defense because I wasn't scouting them, but I'll say they are overall a great team ran by good coaches and should be another good matchup for us.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Paxton DeLaura, the quarterback, 6'5", 215. The running backs are the bowling ball type, 5'8", 222 down there as well. And Hess, the running back, has been very efficient this year. And it seems like, with the exception of the blowout win they had against Lindenwood, it's basically Geno Hess and only Geno Hess as far as running the ball goes. They don't have a lot of rotation back there at the running back position. And, of course, the same at quarterback as well. And, the Salukis of Southern Illinois, they're undefeated so far this season. They were able to beat them by, like I said, 1 point. They outscored them 13-3 in the fourth quarter, 26-10 in the second half. So that's how they ended up beating them. But SEMO is one of those schools that if you grew up in the area that we grew up in, Middle Tennessee, SEMO. Like, I'm sure if you're out west, you probably really don't know anything about SEMO. But down in this area, Kentucky, Tennessee, that kind of stuff, SEMO is a school you know about, a school that you understand. Hey, this is a real threat coming in. They've got a tough schedule, of course. They're going to play Central Arkansas the following game that they play as well. So what's the one thing that your unit, the D-line, has to do to have the most impact against SEMO this week?
We got to do a better job of not only doing our jobs, but striking, trying to recreate a line of scrimmage instead of just being a part of it. And we also have to get off blocks and get more tackles behind the line of scrimmage. I think our D-line's capable of doing that, especially I just think we can be that talented. I do think me, Darian, and Marv, and all the other guys, I think we've put in enough work to where we should start commanding a little bit more. We should start filling up the stat sheet a bit more. We can produce a little bit more volume.
Yeah, I like that. I was talking with somebody this week about the D line and the O line, and talking about the Kentucky game. It was an alumnus actually. We were talking about it Sunday at church, and but he said at Kentucky, man, the line, both sides of the line did really well. And I said, yeah, the same was true. I felt like Saturday night, the same was true overall. I thought the Lions, they held their own, but I think you're right. I think that getting those tackles for losses, not just maintaining the line, but pushing through and those sorts of things as well will be an important part. Do you know, is SEMO, are they a quick hitting team as far as the passing? We talked about, I think it was Cincinnati, we talked about where it was like a lot of 3 steps and balls out kind of a thing.
Yeah.
SEMO like that, or are they a little bit more long ball?
They're more of a RPO type team. So they run a lot of, it's not 3 steps, but it's quick reads.
Yeah.
And they also throw a lot of shots. Like they like spreading the ball out a little bit. Especially this year, they're more of a passing team. But it's also just another team hungry for a win. They need one just as bad as we do. And that's why I know it's going to be a good competitive game, because it's 2 teams that are really good coming in the fight. And I don't know. I wouldn't say every team has 3 step. Every team has 5 steps. So I couldn't tell you what they do more of. I know they like throwing it though. And you know that.
Yeah, and I'll give my prediction on my article this week. It comes out Thursday or Friday, but they play Lindenwood. That was a guaranteed win for them. They knew they were going to win that game. You guys don't have that on your schedule. You don't have that guarantee win. Do you think? And I'm not asking you to counter what the school has done at all, so I don't mean it in that way. But do you think playing those at least one tune-up game is a positive thing, or do you think playing what you guys are doing, going Cincinnati, Kentucky, and then just rolling right into it from there is better?
I don't know. It would have to be something you would have to look at the team you had in the future already to know if that's what your team is capable of. I think the way our standard is and the way we feel about each team we bring in, we're ready to compete as soon as we hit the field. So whether that's against Lindenwood or Cincinnati, I don't think it really would matter for us. Yeah. I like the fact that there's no slouch on our schedule. I like the fact that everybody looks at our schedules like, ooh, that's tough. It's not that tough for us. We're just there to play.
Yeah. We're
just there to compete with whoever shows up. It's not a who's ranked here, who's this good, who's that good. It's who's showing up Saturday to play us.
Yeah.
Type of thing. I don't think teams even need the easy wins. I don't think any win's an easy win. Lindenwood could have easily came out there and shocked the world against them. But I mean, obviously they didn't. But I don't think that's a thing anymore for us in our standard of how we play. I think we're gonna play the best no matter who they are.
Yeah. Now, and I don't say this as an excuse. Last week was a tough week. Coach Kidd's passing on Tuesday. I know that weighed heavy on Coach Wells. I know that cast a shadow on the program throughout the week. Kind of it made things tough for sure, because there's focus that had to be split on the things going on for Coach Kidd. There was extra interviews, there was more media, all that kind of stuff. They had the funeral today. Tomorrow and the rest of the week should be back to normal overall for the program. Do you think the guys are going to show up tomorrow like ready to go, or do you think that even the funeral and all the thought, and again, I'm not saying this, I hope this doesn't come across negative. My point is last week was different because of what happened with Coach Kidd. Do you think that Tuesday everything resets back to normal and all eyes on one thing?
Yeah, that's what you hope. I think our team actually did a really good job of tuning out all the noise, tuning out most of the distractions, because it was a tough week for not just us players, but our coaches who felt some type of way about Coach Kidd, or people who had like some type of connection with him. Like, unfortunately, most of our team really didn't know Coach Kidd like that. No, we know what he's known for and the respect that he gives, and he gets all of that from us, but I think we handled the distraction real well, because I don't want to say it didn't mean anything to us, but it just didn't hit us as hard as it did for Coach Wells and Coach Johnson. And not saying that's a bad thing at all. We went to his funeral today, and I learned a lot more about him, that I understand more why people love him. I understand more why he had so much respect. And think that's a beautiful thing. And it was beautiful to see his family all there and all the supporters, the old players, the old just people that knew him.
Yeah.
And that was more encouraging for me to be like, man, maybe someday we can leave a legacy like this. Maybe someday we can pull together like this and have a gathering. Hopefully not a funeral, but to someday to where me and my friends will see each other again.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the bond we made. But I got to remember the rest of your question. Do I think Tuesday will come in? I know we'll come in and walk in. We're already ready for the next opponent. The only thing we thought about is the sour taste that the last loss left in our mouth. Yeah. We're ready for the next game. We're ready to get a win.
Does being a captain change how you approach coming off a loss? And what I mean by that is, last year you'd had Matt, Parker, the other guys who are responsible for making sure that your mind is right and helping you get past, because you have to, let's face it, you got to move on, right? You can't sit on it. Well, now you're the captain. So does it change anything about how you approach when you head into the locker room? Not necessarily about how you approach yourself, although maybe that would be included, but how you approach your teammates.
Well, after taking a loss like that one, I understand why when I was leaving the locker room with my pizza and going home to my truck, why guys like Tuck, why guys like Shane, why guys like Dak, Matt Jackson would be sitting in the locker room still. Sad, upset, felt like they gave it their all in a game like that, and still lost. So I now I understand. Look, being a captain and being one of the older guys now, I get why that's so important. Why I get why that hurt them like that. But you just have to attempt to stay positive in the mix of everything. You have to somehow find a way to connect to your team, because I think that's one thing. As a captain, I feel like the one way I connect to my friends and my teammates, because I don't really call them teammates, they're my friends, and I feel like they have so much respect. They know how I'll react. They know what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna say. I'm just trying to make everybody feel better. Somehow, some way, I'm just trying to make sure we're all on the same page. We're all still happy. We're all still joking around. We're all still friends. Yeah, and we're all still a team. And that's the main important thing, as not only just a player, just a friend, a captain, whatever you want to call it. I feel like I'm real, and I feel like I'm honest with everybody. So I honestly did not know how to react. And I think that's where I need to grow as a captain, mostly, to be able to say something in that moment, to be able to do something more in that moment for somebody else. Who knows what me sitting in that locker after the game puzzled did to guys. I don't know how they reacted, but tomorrow I have to bring that energy. Tomorrow I have to come back ready to go. Tomorrow is a new day. Right. It's a new day. And I hope that energy that I just said right there, I hope that's what people feel. I hope that's what carries us on. I hope that's what gets us through the next week. I hope that's what finally gets us a win. Yeah. And that's just my mentality as a captain. I'll let y'all in on it. I feel like I can do more for the team. I'm going to do more for the team. And I can't wait. This week is going to be a special one, because it's really going to test us as a team. And it's going to see where we're really at, because we still have everything right in front of us. Right. And if any of my teammates are listening to this stream, we have everything right in front of us. And I hope we go take it. Yeah. And, Coach brought that up post game. And I was impressed with Coach's positivity after the game Saturday. I don't know what it was like in the locker room, but by the time he got to the press conference, I was surprised, honestly. But he really had a very positive outlook on it. And he said the same thing. Listen, we haven't played any conference games yet. That's still in front of us. Our goals are still in front of us. They're still attainable. We're still going to go out and do these things. But, and you've kind of brought this up, but Cincinnati and Kentucky, you lose those games. You want to win them. You try to win them. Kentucky, it was winnable for sure. But you can walk away from that going, hey, man, no one thought we were going to win that game. Outside of the locker room, no one thought we were going to win that game. But then you come away from Saturday, it's a different thing, right? Saturday is, we expect to win this game. Our fans expected us to win this game. Honestly, I think that Western Carolina maybe even expect you to win this game to some degree, at least at certain points in the game. And so, it's a different recovery from coming out of UK, coming out of Cincinnati, because of the way it went down. Last thing I got for you, I mentioned this before we came on the air that I wanted to bring up. The game ended. The Western Carolina, several of the athletes came running across the field,
the way that I define it is it seemed personal to them. Was there any kind of bad blood before the game, or was it just because it got chippy during the game? So was it just in-game stuff that just kind of carried over?
I don't know. They were actually pretty nice to me and D-Bake at least.
Yeah.
They weren't. I got no bad blood with anybody from Western Carolina. Actually, one of my good friends is the number 90, one of their defensive linemen at Western Carolina. I don't know. I guess once they realized, hey, they finally beat us.
Yeah.
And at our place.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody else trying to tell me they celebrated like it was their Super Bowl. That's whatever. I hate people celebrating on our field.
Yeah.
In general, no matter if that's how they want to act, that's how they want to act.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can't wait because I believe they should be on the schedule next year, and let's keep that same energy. Yeah. And I can't wait to see them. Trust me.
It was chippy though. I mean, there was several. I'm trying to think. I don't think there was a lot of. There's a couple personal fouls. There wasn't a ton, but there was some whistles after the whistle kind of thing going on as well. I know Coach. He was heated early on with a hit on Parker and a couple other things, but I felt like the officials overall were balanced. I felt like they let the DBs get away with some stuff, which maybe could have been taken advantage of a little bit more. But I don't know. We were up there watching. We're not allowed to cheer in the press box; it's against the rule, and we're not allowed to do a whole lot. But nonetheless. I made some comments here and there and whatever. And sometimes the guy sitting next to me, the Western Carolina guy, would agree, and other times he wouldn't. But it was an interesting game. Like I said, it had a feel, especially as the game carried on. It had a feel like it meant something. And I know they all mean something. I don't mean to belittle it. But I don't know. It felt personal at the end of the game when just the way a couple of the guys celebrated and some of the fans celebrated as well.
Yeah.
But,
for me, it was a good competitive game between two good competitive teams, and one, it shouldn't have ended like that. But for them to act like that a little bit after, I hope some people took it a little bit personally, because it definitely rubbed some of us the wrong way. But like I said, next year is a whole nother year, and maybe we might even see them again. Yeah, who knows? I honestly, this is the point where I hope they continue to do great. That way, maybe we catch them again at some point in time. Yeah.
And I don't mean to be mean when I say it this way, but if you don't want them celebrating, well, you just beat them, right? And so next time, and that you guys are already there. So another evening game, 6:00 kickoff again this week against SEMO. I personally love the 6:00 kickoffs. I don't know about you, but it's because there's no air conditioning in the press box. So the cooler it is, the better I like it. But like I said, I'll drop an article on bellyupsports.com Thursday or Friday previewing the game against SEMO. I'll give my prediction there in that article as well. Big shout out to Jeremy Edwards for coming on tonight. Really enjoyed chatting with him and talking with him tonight. Thanks to Rickson for helping us out with that as well. Thanks to IPM and All Around Roofing for their support of the program. And thanks to our viewers for tuning in as well. We appreciate your support. Met a listener on Saturday. I was picking up my credentials, and as I was walking away, a guy said, "Hey, now I know who you are." And I was like, "Say what?" And he's like, "I recognize your voice." And I was like, "Oh," and listens to the program. And so appreciate all of our listeners and for tuning in, and always enjoy meeting people who listen as well. And of course, always thank you to Ryan for coming on and giving us some insight we wouldn't get otherwise as well. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sports Stove. If you missed any of the episode, you can go back and watch it on YouTube, or the audio version will be out later tonight, and you can listen wherever you get your podcast to the entire episode and all past episodes as well. Ryan, anything else before we go?
No, I'm all good.
All right. Saturday at the Kid. Call Raymond, get your tickets, be there, be loud. And if it rains, don't leave. But nonetheless, hey, thanks for tuning in to tonight's edition of the Sports Stove Local Hour. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.